Hi, friends. My name's host Eric, host of Talking to Famous People, and I am asking an important question. I've got a couple important questions. I was really torn by the title of this live stream. Important question number one: is Billy Joel the most genius ENFJ? The answer is yes. I really am impressed by Billy Joel. Living here on the West Coast, in Los Angeles, you rarely hear Billy Joel on the radio or anything. It just doesn't. He just doesn't make the radio very often. But Rachel says I'm pretty sure he's an ENFJ. Yeah. Rachel says that he is huge in Long Island. You know, because he's a Long Island guy, I guess. So, but he has got so many brilliant songs. It's insane. His catalog is enormous. There are shit tons of really good songs that I thought were written by somebody else. They were like Elton John, maybe, or just someone else. And it turns out it's Billy Joel. He's got some genius stuff, let me tell you. I was just listening to one of my new favorite songs to listen to, which is called Anthony's Song. It's also called Moving Out. So good. Such a good song. He also has, it's such a good song. There's a song called like Tables in a New York Italian Restaurant or something like that. That's got this long intro part and this long extra part, right? Which are both kind of boring. But in the middle, there's this just incredibly sick piano jam fucking song that's just crazy good. He's really, yeah, Scenes from an Italian Road, that's what it's called, right? So this is kind of like, I never really got into Billy Joel or realized that he was worth listening to or anything. But the more I encounter his shit, the more impressed I am with it. He's just an absolute genius. And, right, like that one. Okay, We Didn't Start the Fire. I don't like that song. I never liked that song. That song was popular when I was a teenager. It was like one of Billy Joel's last hits, and I didn't like that song. And maybe that's what turned me off of Billy Joel too soon, when I was a kid and just thought, oh, I don't like him. I always did like For the Longest Time, though. I love to play that one on the guitar, too. If you said goodbye to me tonight, there would still be music left to write. What else would I do? I'm so inspired by you. It hasn't happened for the longest time. What's that? You're beautiful so far, and you're more than I've hoped for. Such a good song. Vienna, I'm not familiar with. See, I hate Elton John, though. That's the thing. Elton John is terrible. And I guess I just sort of mushed Billy Joel in there with him. Billy Joel's a genius. Big Shot, great song. Incredible song. So, interestingly, Billy Joel is very... Boomers didn't backstart the fire, though. It's a very good point, Gen XL. Look, you're totally giving yourself away, Billy Joel. Nobody even accused you of starting the fire. If you run in and you go, oh, I didn't start the fire, everyone's gonna know you started it. So why is he an ENFJ? Um, well, I've seen an interview or two with him, and he seems like an FE Dom for a lot of reasons, and he's obviously not an ESFJ. There's no way in hell he could be an ESFJ and make all that good music. ESFJs are NI polar. That's just not possible. So he must be an ENFJ. Now I've never talked to the guy obviously, so I've never typed him, but I'm assessing him as ENFJ. Other like talented ENFJs include Paul McCartney, and Kanye West, I believe, is another ENFJ. Paul McCartney is a very talented ENFJ. You know, it's like, I mean, talk about NI tool, right? Even he said about the song Yesterday that when he wrote it, he was sure it must have already existed, and he's like, okay, I must be copying something. That's even he said that, and he's an you know, it's like he understands NI the way it works, but Lennon, INFP, ENFP maybe, like a bitter ENFP. Yeah. Paul McCartney was probably the more talented of the two, but John Lennon may have accomplished actually like more artistically. It's a weird situation. I don't think Lennon ever got over whatever childhood trauma he endured because, like, Paul clearly knew how to party, and George, he, you know, obviously an introvert of some kind who got into, like, you know, thinking about shit too much. Ringo, an amazing drummer that's totally underappreciated. It's like people think Ringo's the weak link in the band, right? Ringo's an insanely good drummer. He's got so much restraint and correctness. It's like the beats he plays are always the right beat for the song, and he doesn't try to show off or anything, you know? Yeah, I agree with you, Crimson King. As far as lyrically, uh, I would agree with you there too. He's better lyrically. But neither of them are spectacular lyrically. Um, I mean, at least Paul McCartney's lyrics, they, oh, Tomorrow Never Knows in the end show how good Ringo is as a drummer. Yeah, he's amazing. He's absolutely amazing. I will say this, though, as well. It seems that if you're going to get a really good musician with good aesthetics and have them be a censor, there's a decent chance they're a drummer. Censors make good drummers. And they have good aesthetics, too, on the drums. They understand what beat goes with what. My mom is amazing. Thanks, Email Anthrax. Your mom is amazing, too. So yeah, I really want to just sort of heap praises on Billy Joel because, you know, when he gets his you know, it's like he has so many songs. There's plenty of them that don't really super stand out as great or whatever, but he has so many ones that strike me and as, oh wait, that's Billy Joel, that song? I had no idea, and it's so good, you know. It's also showing again about like the weird coastal bias. Like Billy Joel never gets played on the radio out here in Los Angeles. I don't know why. Whereas Rachel says, like, in Long Island, you can barely turn on the radio without hearing Billy Joel. Also, you know, Billy Joel plays shit tons of shows every year. Almost all of them in New York. Just like Steely Dan plays almost all their shows in New York, too. I guess if you're in New York, well, Uptown Girl doesn't make sense in LA, that's true. Uptown Girl is not one of my preferred songs of his at all. It's not bad, but, you know. Is my life embracing that 4-slot TI? I forget the lyrics to it. Probably. Oh yeah, is that true about Tom Petty? Yeah, you hear a fair amount of Tom Petty out here in LA. Tom Petty's pretty great too. You know, he doesn't have as deep a catalog of good songs. He's got a few good songs, you know, but you gotta love that song about, you know, where I don't. Oh yeah, that's definitely my life. Bum 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 bum. Go ahead with your own life. Leave me alone. It's great. It's so great. I love it so much. The other competing title for this morning's live stream was, will Katy Perry give birth to a half elf? And the reason I asked that question, of course, is I saw in the supermarket yesterday a copy of People magazine, and on People magazine, on the cover of it was Katy Perry, and she was pregnant. And as I said, hey Rachel, look how pregnant Katy Perry is. And she said, well, maybe you don't know this, but the father of that baby is Orlando Bloom. I said, I did not know that, you know. Wow, Orlando Bloom? Hi, Lawnmower. So, we've talked about Orlando Bloom in here before. He plays the elf, Legolas, in Lord of the Rings. And, I guess he impregnated Katy Perry. So, that's not what I said, email Anthrax. You misquoted me. So yeah, you know, I would say that I don't know anything about what Orlando Bloom is like, but I do know that he's got to be a better choice than Russell Brand. Because Russell Brand makes me want to pull my hair out. He can be funny and stuff, but he's got this sort of boldness about his ENFP wrongness that makes me want to slap him, you know? It's like he embraces everything wrong about ENFP thinking and decides to, you know, like, say, I'm not only wrong, but I'm going to quadruple down and be wrong as publicly as I possibly can. You heard that he broke his ribs while filming Lord of the Rings? It makes sense, you know, he's very, like, you know, he had to slide down that long thing with his feet on it while simultaneously shooting people with arrows. It's got to be tricky, you know? You might fall down if that happens. Orlando Bloom, one thing that bothers me about him is that both of his names are non-names. Like Orlando is the name of a city, and bloom is a verb that refers to flowers opening. So that's a little bit troubling. First of all, Orlando and Bloom, neither of them were very masculine names. So he got kind of a girly stage name. I'm assuming that's his stage name, Is that his real name? Life hack. Never trust a man with two first names. It's true. If I were named Eric Carl, you wouldn't be able to trust me. That's what bothers me, yes. I don't like the fact that his name's Orlando Bloom. I don't like Orlando in general. Orlando makes me think of like an imitation Orange County or something. That's what I think of Orlando. Orlando is the imitation Orange County. Oh. I see. Is his real first name Orlando? Is he Jewish? I didn't know he was Jewish. I don't know if that matters, but... So, yeah. Yeah, it bothers me that somebody would name their son Orlando. It's not a good name. Not a good city. Oh, his stepfather was. Okay. Russell Brand is like finding a diamond in the sewer. You get something worthwhile, but is it worth it to wade through all that shit? Yeah. Exactly. I mean, look, I thought he was funny in Forgetting Sarah Marshall. He was good in that. He was basically Bone Coach in that. He was like, he was an ENFP playing an ESFP in that movie. Pretty funny. I like that movie a lot. Oh, is Bloom a Jewish last name? I had no idea. Well, he may be such a simp in that movie, but I would not say that the movie is promoting simpering. And he emerges at the end of it not such a simp. I really like his musical that he makes at the end, too. I think that's a great idea, I want to see that musical. So I saw a movie yesterday called Annihilation with Natalie Portman in it. First, let me just say, Natalie Portman is a great actress, and Star Wars really wasted her talents. Like, I remember when I saw episode 1 of Star Wars in the theater, I was all excited about it, because I had seen 4, 5, 6. I was just so underwhelmed. It was like, oh my god, come on. You can't do better than that? What a mess. John Mayer has dated everyone. Yeah, I suspect he has. Yeah, that movie, it was great. Annihilation was great. There's a storyline within it in which gets revealed through as you proceed. A little bit of a spoiler here, by the way, if you haven't seen it. It's not a huge spoiler, but a little bit. So it's like there's this storyline where her husband has been gone for a year on this mission, and she's not sure why he took this mission. Ultimately, it turns out it was sort of a suicide mission, like low chance of return. And it's revealed that the reason her husband took this mission was because on one of his previous deployments, she had cheated on him. And they had never explicitly talked about it, but he knew somehow, like he could just tell, you know. And so he went up on this like suicide mission, and I really like the way that the movie dealt with that storyline and her guilt and her comeuppance sort of regarding that. You know, I still feel very strongly when I see infidelity in movies represented. It impacts me a lot, and it sticks with me. I remember it and such. But there was one movie Rachel and I were talking about yesterday that I saw a long time ago where it was so like I find intense that the hard moments of the movie have stuck with me to this day. You know, but I can't remember what movie we were talking about now. Troy. I've never seen Troy. He's kind of hilarious. What he does, his actions. Yeah, I'm with Lawnmower on this one, Genexio. I don't like it when you have an unhappy ending, an uncertain ending. I like happy, conclusive endings. Maybe that's just me being a little bit weak or whatever, but I don't know. Maybe it's FI polar. I don't like to experience any negative FI. Alright, Troy's on our list then. We'll watch it. Rachel and I watch a lot of movies. Anytime I'm not feeling thwacked out enough to do something creative, we watch movies, basically. I got a good night's sleep last night. And the night before. So I'm feeling pretty rested today. Bana as Hector. Who's Bana? I've never heard. Oh, Sean Bean. I don't know who Eric Bana is. I've never heard of. I've never heard of Eric Bana or Sean Bean. Never heard of either of them. But we will watch Troy. We will, and I recommend Annihilation. It's not the best movie I've seen, but it was very enjoyable, very good, and very worth watching. Sean Bean was in Fellowship of the Ring. What character was he? Oh, Boromir. He's like the first one who dies defending the hobbits, right? First he tries to steal the ring from Frodo, and then he dies defending him. Okay, that's Boromir, right? He's the one who's in the in the meme where it goes, "One does not just walk into Mordor," or something like that, you know? You know that meme I'm talking about? So what other movie we saw another movie recently? Yesterday, was it? It was some older movie from the 90s, early 90s. What was it? One does not simply walk into Mordor, right? And when I saw, when I saw that scene when we were rewatching Lord of the Rings, I paused the movie. I was like, that's the thing that they do that meme from, you know? To Rachel. And she's like, oh yeah, I recognize that too, you know? For C.S. Joseph, one does not simply type themselves the NDP. Equilibrium. God, what early 90s movie was I watching, though? It was like they were all coming out of the high school. And I said, that looks like 80s high school. Like, everyone's white and well dressed. And she's like, no, early 90s. And it was like 92 or something. What movie was that? God. I just saw it yesterday, I think. Well, something Rachel wanted to watch. Oh, we watched Hocus Pocus. That's what it was. Hocus Pocus. With Bette Midler and the lady who's in Sex and the City. And some kids. John Hughes movies are overrated? Yeah, probably. Look, I'm a person of the 80s, and I didn't particularly love those John Hughes movies. Hocus Pocus was funny. It was good. Bette Midler it's the perfect role for Bette Midler. See, what made us watch Hocus Pocus, I think, was we were talking about Bette Midler. And I was saying to Rachel how Bette Midler, I bet you this is how she got into show business. Here's how Bette Midler got into show business. She walked in someplace, like, where there's an audition, and she's like, Rah! And some, like, casting director's like, lady, you got it. And that's how Bette Midler got into show business, right? So, if there's ever a role that was perfectly designed for Bette Midler, it's the main witch in Hocus Pocus. She is delightfully hammy with the whole thing, you know. Ferris Bueller is actually rather slow. I rewatched it recently. It's cool. I liked it. I enjoyed the old school pacing. Here and there, you know, like it was a nice change of pace, but overall, I found the movie rather slow, rather self-indulgent. Actually, Ferris Bueller. The other movie we watched recently, Rachel and I, was Romancing the Stone. Romancing the Stone was a movie that I wanted to see for SI reasons at the mall here near my house. Back when Romancing the Stone came out, it was at that movie theater for like 2 years. I'd never seen any movie before or since on the marquee that used to be outside the mall. That used to have the names of the movies on it. It was there on that marquee for like 2 years, and had never been any movie that had stayed in that movie theater for such a long time as Romancing the Stone. It was there forever. So much so that, you know, like, me and my friends would all comment on it, and I'd say to my parents, can you believe it? Romancing the Stone is still at the movie theater. So I wanted to see it. I had seen it once when it was in the theater, I think. Way back when. Because I rewatched it with Rachel. I didn't remember anything about it really except for two scenes. The scene where they go down this mudslide thing, and the scene where they swing across on these vines. So it's like I remember the two most like teenage boy action scenes or something. I really didn't remember anything else from the movie. It was quite entertaining. It was breezy and good. An unqualified success for Michael Douglas, by the way. What's really interesting is I read about this movie, and it's got quite a tragic and weird story associated with it. You figured out the best rhyme for pumpkin? Trumpskin? So, there was a waitress who wrote the script for Romancing the Stone. and she managed to land a meeting somehow with Michael Douglas, or encountered him somewhere, pitched him the idea. He pitched him her script. He liked it. He bought it and produced it and said, okay, this is the movie I've been looking for to make. I can be the leading man in it and reestablish myself as a leading man. And he liked her script and he bought it. And all of a sudden, this waitress who had been trying, was now a Hollywood scriptwriter. The movie was quite successful. It worked out well for Michael Douglas. He wanted to be the leading man, and it's like he was getting too old to be a leading man, and so he wanted to make his own movie rather than get a part in somebody else's, because he knew what he wanted. He wanted a thing that would sort of launch him back as somebody who could carry a movie. So here's what happened. It worked, He made that movie. It was very successful. He made his point to Hollywood or whatever, and then he hired that same lady, to be the writer for the sequel, which was called Jewel on the Nile, which was also relatively successful. But the thing is, that lady, having finally gotten her success as a writer in Hollywood, died in a car crash shortly after beginning the writing on the sequel, Jewel of the Nile. I'm just telling you what I learned about Romancing the Stone, Michael Douglas, and stuff yesterday. I was SIing when I was telling you about the marquee on the theater, but when I'm telling you about what I read yesterday, I guess that's still sort of SIing, but I just thought it was an interesting story that I read. The Game. I haven't seen The Game, so don't tell me the plot twist if you think it's worth watching. I don't even recognize the name of it. Yes, I'd say Billy Joel is an ENFJ, and I'm basing this just on seeing some interviews where he seems to be an FE Dom, and he's obviously not an ESFJ because he's got too many damn good songs, So he's no possible way he could be an ESFJ. No, I mean, it's sad. It was just, it's a sad story, Alright, does everybody have a favorite Billy Joel song? My favorite Billy Joel song right now is Anthony's song, or what's also called Moving Out. But it's tough to pick one, I mean, he's got a lot of really good songs. Michael Douglas won an Oscar for producing One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest before he was a famous actor. Ah, interesting. Well, you can, Nathan Long, you can play Moving Out on the piano. That's impressive. Unfortunately, I am not a very good piano player. I can't play anything. You May Be Right is another brilliant one, Running Fox. Thank you for pointing that one out. That's the thing. People could keep pointing out Billy Joel songs that are genius and go, I forgot about that one. Because there's so many of them, And you don't necessarily even know that they're by Billy Joel. Another incredible songwriter that people don't really understand as an incredible songwriter is Willie Nelson. Willie Nelson is responsible for writing lots of songs that he never sang, that he was not a singer on or anything. He never produced those songs. He was just a songwriter. Back in the day when the music songwriting publication business had the sheet music aspect to it more, Well, see, I'm not really into any artist per se, but I'm into really good timeless tracks that I can continue to listen to and enjoy for the rest of my life. And the percentage of tracks that qualify as such is infinitesimally small. When I encounter an artist who's got more than one of those songs, then you're already talking about something special. If they got multiple, like Billy Joel, then you're talking, won't be forgotten genius. I'm trying to type you and I want to know where I need improvement. What do you type me as email to Anthrax? ISFP? You need improvement. Bye, Gen Xel. I like movie talk too. That's something wonderful that Rachel has brought into my life that I had just forsaken. You know, I hadn't watched movies in ages before Rachel and I got together, and now I watch them all the time. I watch a lot of movies. Mexican Hayride, 1948, Abbott and Costello movie that I just clicked on because it was in the recommended videos. It was free, and I I wouldn't say I really enjoyed it. It wasn't hilarious or anything. It was surprisingly still funny-ish, given that it's from 1948 and comedy ages really poorly. But you know, Abbott, he was a real talent. He was a real, like, he had a lot of skills as a comedian and as a clowny guy. There's this great bit in, you know how Abbott and Costello did Who's on First, right? Well, there's sort of an equivalent kind of bit in the Mexican Hayride movie, which you might call the Silver Ore bit. I'll see if I can find the transcript of that and share it with people here. Silver Ore bit, Abbott and Costello. Alright. Mexican Hayride, Abbott, Silver Ore. Silver Ore what? Alright, I bet this isn't even copyright. I bet I can play the Silver Ore bit from the movie here. Let me see. Yeah, this is in the public domain. Pleasure to find the scene now. Here it is. I found it pretty easy, actually. Alright. So, what I'm going to do is this.
La señorita. La capitana.
Humphrey! Stay with us.
You all are with the amigo?
Oh, certainly.
Ah, bien. For the señorita, it is the best task of silver.
Ah, thank you.
Gracias. For you, a beautiful breast.
Thank you.
Say,
Por nada, señor.
that's wonderful. That is pretty. What wonderful craftsmen they have in this country. To think that a short time ago, that was just a hunk of silver ore.
Silver or what?
Silver
ore.
Silver or what?
Silver ore.
Well, it's got to be silver or something. It
Right.
can't be silver or nothing.
That's possibly been lying in the ground for thousands and thousands of years. You see, they dig it up and then they smell it.
That's been in the ground for thousands of years? No wonder it smells. I wouldn't dig it up. I'd dig it deeper. Down as far as you could get you. Put a pole and stick it down in the dirt and then cover it over with dirt.
What he's trying to tell you is that the ore is smelted.
What kind of English is that?
Well, smelt it means smelted by a smelter. When a smelter melts, it smells. Now, does that penetrate?
I'm getting a whiff of it.
Then after it's smelted down, it's made into these beautiful ornaments by a smith.
By a smith?
Mm-hmm.
Well, couldn't Jones make it?
Oh, sure, but he'd still be a smith.
How can a Jones be a smith? A Jones is a Jones.
He's got to be a smith in order to make these.
Jones don't have to be a smith.
Definitely.
Why should Jones change his name just to make these things?
Don't change his name. Didn't you ever go to school, stupid?
Yes, sir, and I come out the same way.
That's what I thought.
I used to go to school.
Now, look. You take a shovel, you go down into the mine. You locate the mother lode. Then you strike the vein.
Just a minute.
And it's...
Don't go no further.
Why?
I've had enough of you.
What do you mean?
Now listen to you. I didn't mind it when you told me that a guy had to change his name from Jones to Smith to make this kind of stuff.
Ooh.
And I didn't mind it when you said to me that it was silver ore and you refused to finish the sentence. And that goes for you, too.
Now, here.
I didn't mind any of that kind of
Now,
stuff.
take it easy.
But when you say to me that I have to go into a mine with a shovel and hit my mother in a vein while she's carrying a load, that is going too far.
Wah, 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 wah. Let's get that humor music. Anyway, you know, not the most hilarious thing in the world, obviously, but interesting. You know, it's interesting to see what. I mean, it ages pretty well from 1948, right? My favorite part of that Civil War thing is when it goes, and you refuse to finish the sentence. And that goes for you too. Silver or what? Oh, Cloud's here. The truth will set you free from this prison called flesh? I'm pretty sure you're talking about death, Cloud. It's a little bit different than truth. The Three Amigos is a genius film, for sure. What type is the main guy in that movie? I like when he's slamming his hand. Yeah, it's funny. What movie was that again? That was Mexican Hayride, 1948's Mexican Hayride. I like to watch some old black and white movies sometimes just because you get such an interesting sense of the time period. You know, for example, first of all, the style is just, people are so goddamn stylish in 1948. It's unbelievable. Everybody's tie is just a work of art. And they're all dressed in suits and they all got their hats on and shit, you know, and the ladies are all dressed fancy. Well, that's actually how the world was, too, in cosmopolitan areas, anyway. Maybe not out in the country, but back in the 40s, everybody in the city was dressed up all the time. And, I mean, it was a fashionable era. Want some fart jokes, Billy is. It's a good way to it's good, like, insult to one's comedic tastes, I guess. So, what are some other movies I saw recently? I've seen a lot of them recently. Rachel and I are always looking up movies to see things we want to see and haven't seen and so forth. When boys were boys and men were men, what are boys now, and what are men now? Some of the other films have been impressive feats of filmmaking. Buster Keaton was kind of mind blowing. Well, I also one of the oldest movies I've ever watched was 1938's Top Hat, and that was quite an impressive piece of work. It entertained me the whole way through. It had a lot of dancing, but it was also quite forward thinking in the sense that, in the movie, there's this conversation with the lady, and how she already put out, but she went to this guy, but they're before they were married and so forth. And then there's other scene where like this other dude is trying to get on the girl, and he's like, I don't want to crush you like a flower, and she's like, oh, don't worry about it. I've been crushed before. She's kind of a slut, the main girl character, for the 1930s anyway, and they don't condemn her for it. It's kind of understood as a tricky thing to deal with, but not worth condemning someone over. Do you watch David Cronenberg films? I don't know. Can you give me a title or two that I might recognize? Eric, will you take the vaccine? I'm not convinced that there will be a vaccine. It seems unlikely, actually, because if this coronavirus is like most coronaviruses, then we're stuck with something like the common cold, where you can't really make a vaccine for it. If the law makes it mandatory. I mean, the thing is, I don't have any problem with vaccines in general, Cloud. I believe in vaccinating your children, and I think vaccines are fine. There's nothing wrong with vaccines. If, in fact, they produce a vaccine for COVID, then I would, yeah, right, exactly. What Running Fox says. Would I take it? Probably not, but I'd encourage most people to take it. If the law made it mandatory, I mean, that wouldn't happen. Not here, anyway. Not in America. The thing is, it's one thing to force this sort of emergency power shit down everybody's throat. It's another thing to try to get something like that to sustain muster in the courts. It won't. Yes, foxes can be domesticated. In Russia, they've had this long-standing experiment running since the 50s where they've been trying to breed the most friendly foxes they can, and in fact, they've produced a domesticated breed of fox. It's proof that evolution is bullshit, because it shows that no matter how much you create breeds, you nevertheless still have the same species. You want to see The Fly? The one with Jeff Goldblum in it? I saw that back in the day. I haven't seen Scanners. I wouldn't mind seeing Scanners. I haven't seen Naked Lunch. I do remember the Simpsons episode where I think it's Nelson, perhaps, emerges from the movie Naked Lunch saying, I can think of two things wrong with that title. I don't like David Lynch films very much. I've seen Blue Velvet back in the day. That was a movie that had a lot of intense FI shit. I have seen Clockwork Orange. I don't like 2001. It's boring. I don't know other Cooper. Oh, what's that movie? With Peter Sellers in it. You know that movie with Peter Sellers in it that ends with the song, "We'll meet again, don't know where, don't know when, but Doctor Strangelove." Right. Thank you, Crimson King. That was a good movie. That was an excellent movie. Shining is good. I mean, they're good films, but they're not films I necessarily would want to rewatch or necessarily even find particularly fun or enjoyable. They're just you sort of give them credit for being good, you know. Yeah, Doctor Strangelove's pretty great. I love that song at the end. That's Marlene Dietrich, I believe, sings that song. You will not take my precious bodily fluids. Yeah, 2001's a pretentious mess. Paul Thomas Anderson films. Can you give me some examples of a Paul Thomas Anderson film? I don't know what movies he made. Boogie Nights. Now, that's the movie I was thinking about, actually. That's a movie where the intense FI moments in there have stuck with me for years. Like the scene when, Seymour Hoffman, what's his first name? Seymour Hoffman. He's dead now, that guy. He does that scene in the car where he's beating himself up, so to speak. That is one of the most intense scenes in the history of film. Also, the scene where just the whole storyline, but including the climax of the scene, which is climax of the storyline, which is the storyline about the guy played by William Macy, yeah, and his wife. That is so intense. Oh my god! And then he shoots them, and it's like, I would never rewatch that movie. It's too much FI. Yeah, the William H. Macy scene is wild. And is right. Yeah, it's so intense. So, but you know, it's like the other thing is, I saw we're reading through this list. I think it was on Marie Claire magazine online of films that you should see or whatever. The people who made this list were so clearly FI people, and on the list was, of course, Before Sunrise. And Before Sunrise is in fact a great film, but not the kind of film that you want to watch if you're FI polar, for sure. Eyes Wide Shut? I don't think I've seen Eyes Wide Shut. Godfather's great, of course. I haven't seen Apocalypse Now. Maybe not since I was a kid. I don't remember it at all, if I have seen it. Well, yeah, Godfather 2 is good too. Godfather 1, there are certain scenes in that I remember very, very vividly. I don't think I've seen Wolf of Wall Street. Well, Cloud, you know, I bet tons and tons of people died 666 days before 2001. I bet an equivalent amount of people died 666 days before 2001 as died 667 days and 665 days. So why is that meaningful? Luca Brasi is swimming with the fishes. Transubstantiated Rona at us? What's Rona? I don't know what that is. You're an unholy creature? You dwell in the darkness? Corona, Corona. Oh. Yeah, I don't have the COVID, I don't think. But confusion will be your epitaph. Cloud departs here today, a beloved friend, son, father, and husband. Together we can all agree on just one thing. His life was confusing. He created great confusion wherever he went, and we were all very confused by him. Amen. Like that, Cloud? Chinese virtue? Chinese viru. Eric, can you please talk about SI inferior? Fourth slot SI. Good old fourth slot SI. Well, SI is the boring part if it's fourth slot in general. That is to say, if, SI is cleaning up. Don't forget to clean up after you're done playing. That's SI. It's boring. It's the boring part. Okay, playtime's over. Now you have to come and take a bath and eat dinner and stuff. It's the boring part. So, it's also, if we want to have the fun part be fun, we need to pay better attention to the boring part. And, I mean, if you notice that your daughter hates to come in from playing and like sometimes gets constipated because she refuses to poop because she's playing and so forth, then it's likely you're talking about somebody with probably fourth slot SI. Can you meet up with me today? Are you in Los Angeles? Or you mean talk on the video conference? Yeah, sure. I got work at 10. I got to work from 10 to noon, and then after that I can meet with you. How common are ENTP girls when compared to ENFPs? Very uncommon. Very, very uncommon. I can only really think of one. That's Becky. I've encountered another one when I'm typing, but they're rare. I've encountered a couple more typing them, but yeah, they're rare. Okay, cool. Thanks, Lightbulb. So, well, Cloud, I mean, yes, you would. Typings are $100. $100 for an hour-long face-to-face. The thing is, if you're SI 7th slot, it's actually kind of less noticeable, I suspect, than SI 4th slot, because SI 7th slot, they won't bring to you SI problems, but SI fourth slot will bring to you SI problems, and so you'll notice the deficit more if you're a parent. No, I never charge $15. Why would I do that? It's not worth my time. Your daughter calls herself a trickster, so you're cool with saying she's an ENTP at this point? What do you think is the ratio between thinkers to feelers in men and women? I think it's probably there are probably more thinkers among men and more feelers among women, but it's hard to say for sure because women are encouraged, or maybe it's just natural or something, I don't know, to attend to feeling matters more and to be, at least in a public sense, more FE aware than men are expected to be. So it's, people always have the capacity to change their affect to some extent, which is why affect is a poor way to type people. If she's claiming, so somebody asked me, I think maybe it was Lawnmower, all right, well, let me address this thing. Let's talk about labeling yourself. Look, there are two ways of understanding yourself. You can understand it with your particularist data, or you can understand it with a universalist approach. So, if you're a kid and you're understanding yourself and who you are, there are several ways to do that. One is to know what's authentically important to you, take an FI approach. One is to know your own experience, an SI approach. But another is to understand yourself as representative of some kind of pattern and expressive of that. Even with children, NI types are more likely to prioritize that pattern understanding. Are ESFJs generally messy people? No. They're cluttery people, perhaps, but they generally are on top of keeping things looking nice because they might get somebody come over at any point, ISFJs are surprisingly more messy than you'd think, given that they're SI DOMs, but they tend to still try to hide the mess a bit. Do you think instinct might capture some of the intention of feeling in MBTI? I don't know what to make of that question. I want you to explain it better. Every ESFJ I know is very clean, obsessively, and judgingly. Well, every ESFJ expects to be judged on the cleanliness of their space. Because if you are SI tool user, you're assuming that you better validate on your SI, which means other people's experience of your house. I mean, if you think your younger sister is ESFJ and she never cleans up after herself, it could be that she's facilitated in having things be clean without having to do it herself, and she might, in theory, take advantage of that. It's possible. Are you familiar with bears in gay community? I believe a bear is a large man with a beard who is homosexual, if I'm not mistaken. You mentioned how Billy Joel couldn't write so many good songs if he was an ESFJ. Why are ESFJs poor songwriters? Could you name any good ESFJ musicians? The reason why ESFJs are poor songwriters is because they are NI polar. They don't think that the universal understanding of it is meaningful. They don't get the whole concept that beauty is not in the eye of the beholder. That in fact some songs are objectively better than other songs. That is a foreign concept to an ESFJ or anybody who's NI-polar. As far as they're concerned, everybody's experience is the only way of knowing anything. Is there a way to get famous without selling your soul to Satan? I mean, of course. I don't think hardly any... If... Is Cloud... Of course there is. A lot of people who are famous based on their talent, you know. It's like Steve Martin said. If you want to succeed, be so good they can't ignore you. Which is the best advice you could possibly receive, right? So it's great advice because it puts the onus where it belongs, on the person. I'm trying to be more famous, but obviously I'm not good enough yet. If I were so good that they can't ignore me, like Steve Martin says, then I'd be more famous. I like that approach because it puts the onus where it belongs, on me. I always thought Octavia Silva was a bear gay hunting for a little twink cloud. Octavia Silva's a girl, lawnmower. She's an attractive young woman. I've typed her. I know. I've seen her in person. I've talked to her. She's an attractive young woman. Not a large, hairy, homosexual man. Okay, just to let you know. I know her name's Octavio, but she's kind of like... She was named by the same people who named Orlando Bloom. I've actually changed her name to Quinceañera Golden, which is a better name, but she didn't retain it. I mean, it's true you can be successful without talent. Tom Green is not talentless. He's just, he's a one-trick pony. He was always a one-trick pony. And his one trick was pretty good, I guess, for a little while, right? There are plenty of other people you could say are talentless but successful. Madonna. You know, Madonna's talentless but successful. Who else? Like, you know... I mean, like, okay, well, Kirsten Dunst. She's a terrible actress. She ruins everything she's in. But she's successful anyway. I don't know why, you know. Most people who are successful, you can understand why they're successful to some extent. Cloud... I wish that... This is what I wish, Cloud. If nothing else, if you could just reflect on the fact that I, Cloud, am prone towards being wrong about NI nonsense. So I should assume I am in this and every instance. Alright, fine. I'll Google celebrities 666 sign. Silly goose. Why is that 666? Why is this 666? Huh? It's just Cloud. I mean, come on. Your NI can't be that terrible, can it? Read Mohawk pigeons? What mechanism causes creatures to change in speciate if not evolution? Well, there's no indication that speciation actually occurs. Adaptation occurs, and that's genetic flexibility within a genome. Flexibility within a genome is a real thing, but the fact that it's a specific genome that's being flexible is pretty much indisputable. I mean, look, a species definitionally is that which reproduces copies of itself, and not something else. We know for a fact that all mutations are deleterious, and that the only possible mutation mechanism that could be responsible would be genetic drift via a nearly neutral mutation, as per the nearly neutral theory. But we can dismiss evolution for lots of good reasons. Most importantly, though, Mohawk Pigeon, you've got the wrong understanding of things. It is evolution that is making the claim that they explain where species come from. So it's evolution that has the burden to substantiate that claim. Now, one of the things I'm pointing out is that evolution completely fails to substantiate their claim, so we ought not afford it any legitimacy. I don't need a counter-advocacy. My counter-advocacy is irrelevant. The fact is, I'm not the one making the claim to explain speciation, or to say that speciation exists. So, there is no mechanism that evolution provides to explain it. If you can't explain the evolutionary mechanism, then you don't even know what you believe in. It's not mutation. It's not sexual selection. It's not anything like that. Eric, are EJs and IPs more authoritarian than IJs and EPs? Yeah, in general. I would say. That's generally true. Have you looked into the instinctional variants much? To be honest, I might say I've even found them more informative about variation of type than the wings thing. Yeah, I don't like wings. Snurg, you bring up an important point. So, I do think that Enneagram is the other half of the equation. It's a half of the equation that's more feely and so therefore less interesting to me, perhaps. But I don't see myself as a social instinctual variant at all. I am, in fact, I believe, a sexual instinctual variant. I like operating as part of a two-person team. I need to have a partner, The thing is, you see here my social variant coming out, because when I'm engaged in talking to everybody, it seems like I'm a social variant, perhaps, but the thing is, the way to note this is as follows. When I was in a relationship with Kimberly, the first thing I would always try to do is deal with things as a couple, as a pair, as a two-person team. And when that failed, I would turn to the community to help me to process things. I believe that I'm SX, SO, SP. In that order. My Enneagram tri-type, I don't like wings either. I don't think wings are useful at all or meaningful, but I do like tri-types, and my tri-type is 784. So it's I don't know why she removed that lawnmower. I don't know. I'm just gonna let that just slide right past and not even pay attention to it. Yeah, I like being part of a couple. I've always wanted to be part of it. I always want to be part of a couple. I don't really like it when I'm single. It's nice for a while because it's like all of a sudden I have all the responsibilities that were associated with that relationship are gone. But it's like I probably wouldn't be happy being single for a little while now because I don't have any. Normally when you end a relationship, there's a sense of relief because it's been a pain in the ass for a while now, right? You've been struggling with them for a while. But I wouldn't feel that if Rachel and I broke up because we don't have any struggles. Things are real easy squeezy, Things are great. I don't have to worry about she and I fighting. I just have to make sure I am, it's like I shouldn't do what I did the other night. The other night I woke up, I was really hungry from a nap, and I didn't feel like making food or anything. And so I got up and I said, I wish you would just put food in my hands. And because we're such a good couple and we don't talk to each other like that and we don't treat each other badly, of course she was impacted by that quite a bit, feeling like she's not meeting my expectations or something. And I certainly don't want her to feel that way because she's totally meeting and surpassing all my expectations. But, I mean, that's what it means when two people are genuinely good to each other, as Rachel and I are. We accept each other, it's natural, it's understood, it is a beautiful thing. It's easy, so easy. People often say the second instinct is like a playtime thing, and the first one that you kind of put energy into and a bit more neurotic, potentially. And the last one is neglected a bit. Yeah, well, Rachel and I both neglect our self-preservation. Neither of us are SP. She might be SX, SPSO maybe, but I think she's SXSO, SP as well. There are no subtypes, Cloud, like that. You're not in any subtype of an ESFP. You're an ESFP. And remember, you are producing objects that perhaps are examples of abstract ideation or philosophical ideation or something like that, or metaphysics or whatever. But you're not engaged in discourse about it. You're not really talking about it. You're just... I suppose that it's a lack of ability to hear your tone. That must be explain my weakness. Actually, Lawnmower, yes, there was a message deleted by you. Octavia Silva removed your message that said, at Cloud, lol, somebody triggered. She removed that. So, it is in fact the case that you did have a message deleted, Lawnmower. Maybe Eric's the real ISFP? I could be the real ISFP. Metaphysics, that with minus the meta and the physics, right? Just... Do all types have subtypes? No, I don't think any types have subtypes. I think subtypes is bullshit. There's no reason to think that subtypes are real at all. The reason there are exactly 16 types links to the fact that there are two basic kinds of strategies that people manifest, and two variants of each of those kinds of strategies. And then, no, I'm sorry, 4 variants of each of those kind of strategies. So it's like, because if you are a knower, you have to be interface second. And because if you are an interfacer, you have to be know second. It's because those two represent the required components of a strategy. A strategy being to know and interface rather than to deliberate and act. So we have 8 knower interfacers, or interfacer knowers, and we have 8 action deliberators, or deliberator action types. It's because there's 2 kinds of deliberation, and 2 kinds of action. So you're going to have exactly 4 types that have deliberation first and action second. And you'll have exactly 4 types that have action first and deliberation second, and so forth. Now, if you're talking about subtypes, then you're saying you have to mean something. So let's say you were to say that I was a TI subtype of an ENTP, or actually, let's say I was an FE subtype of an ENTP. Well, what would that mean? When we talk about cognitive functions, we mean specific things. We're talking about mechanical relationships, definitional relationships, relationships of proportionality and inverse proportionality, relationships of exclusivity, and other dynamic elements in modeling a system. So, what I'm saying is that if you are to say I was an FE subtype, would it mean that I'm somehow magically an action interface type, even though only action deliberation works together as a strategy? It doesn't mean anything specific. So what you're saying is, as an ENTP, maybe you view me as more FE successful than some other ENTPs. That doesn't make me an FE subtype, certainly. It might make me more mature. It might make me have an identity crafted or developed in an environment that pushes that to improve, which is the case. It's like, since I've been on YouTube, my FE's gotten better. It's had to, because the environment pushes me to improve. The thing to remember, Cloud, is that's not true. There are no ENTPs who use FE more than TI, because if they were to prioritize FE as an intentional manner second, then that would mean they would need to be a knower first. And it's not the case that every ENTP uses FE at the same capacity, by which I mean there's 2 different things you can mean by that. It is the case that every ENTP uses FE as a 3rd slot absolute value that's a constraint on and informs their TI, and that their TI needs to be consistent with if they're going to be able to find that approach sustainable. That's true. But it is not true that everybody's going to be as successful at it. And that doesn't mean successful from their own perspective or your perspective or whatever. I mean, it doesn't mean successful like in terms of how you use it in the stack. It means successful as to whether you perceive them as successful at it. But your perception of their success at the attentional manner extroverted feeling has absolutely nothing to do with whether or not it's it's like they still have the same stack. They still have the same exact attentional stack. Okay, Email Anthrax says, Eric, I've double-checked your type. I have some bad news. Okay. Curious Kyra says, I'm sure I will. I know it is true. Don't talk to Octavia Silva, but I will marry him or her. Cloud's gonna marry Octavia Silva, but don't tell her. Eric, do I plan on marrying Rachel? I don't know, to be honest. The answer, I guess, is no, I don't currently plan on it, but I don't plan on not marrying her either, It's just, I need to see... I need to understand some advantage to marrying her, because I don't. As far as I'm concerned, we're married. I'm as committed and all in as I can be, whether the state agrees with me or not. I wouldn't mind having a marriage ceremony. I don't know if I want to involve the federal government with my marriage and inform them of it and make it all legal and stuff, because. If I were going to do that, I'd have to conclude that it were practically beneficial. In other words, that there were a tax benefit or some other thing like that that was going to make it worth the additional hassles, and I'm not sure that's the case. So, I have no problem having a marriage ceremony, but whether or not I want to involve the legal aspects of it is another question. I'm not opposed to it. I'm not opposed to marrying Rachel. Certainly, if it were super important to her, I would be happy to do so. I'm not in any hurry to either. It's like, I've had 2 marriages already, and they were never. There's nothing distinct from a marriage for me and another long-term relationship name. I have cancer. That's my type. You double-checked my type and you determined that I have cancer. I didn't know that you could find cancer by typing somebody. Cancer of the FI kind. I'm an FI user? Oh no. Am I FI Dom or FI Tool? One more. Yeah, SFJs care about marriage a lot. I mean, look, NFJs, Rachel kind of cares about it too. Rachel has her own thoughts of what's important. Like, you know, she asked me last night about, do we share a YouTube channel? Is this our channel? I'm like, yeah, sure, of course. But the thing is, this channel's persisted through more than one chick, So, obviously, if we were to break up, then she'd retain no involvement in it. Hambone's behind me. So, I do want her to see it as hers in the sense that she's welcome to, if she felt like live streaming when I was asleep sometimes, I have no problem with it, obviously. She can do whatever she wants, really. But, to her, that sort of status of whether it's our channel or my channel or something is important, I guess. It doesn't seem so important to me. It's more like, no, I mean, if I were to get married legally, I'd probably have some sort of prenup that says, I'm not going to. But see, it's weird because I don't have any concerns about Rachel and I, like, breaking up or anything. Rachel's great. Rachel's perfect. We get along beautifully. I can't imagine us separating at this point. She gets the channel every other weekend. No, yes, there would be no. If we split up, then there's no. I owe her nothing. But we're not going to split up, so I'm not worried about it. Well, it's kind of hard to see him because I'm standing in front of him. I'm blocking him. Maybe we should change the picture. Maybe you're tired of this picture. Remember that I am going to work at... Oh, I see. I'm not standing in front of him. I have the chat over him. There. Change of scenery. Now I'm playing soccer. Everybody loves it when I'm playing soccer. Everybody loves it a lot. Can you give the guy in the background a kiss? Well, I would, except I've already changed it to soccer field now. I know Octavia Silva, like, who is this man with the beard talking to us? I don't know either. Who is that guy? Alright, so, I'm going to take a short intermission where I go outside and smoke this cigarette. I'm trying to not smoke cigarettes inside quite so much because it makes the room stink like cigarettes. To be honest, Cloud, that's a really important question. I have a sense that I am, but I have also an understanding that somehow I can't quite grasp the... No, I'm saying Mohawk Pigeon. I agree the fossil record, the branching fossil record, would tend to suggest more complex forms emerging from less complex forms. That would tend to suggest it. You don't need to demonstrate anything. Mohawk Pigeon. You say, as I can't demonstrate exactly how DNA is changed from parent to offspring, then somehow it doesn't give any credence to theory. Mohawk, there is no theory then. You need to explain the mechanism. Evolution, as it was originally understood, had a mechanism that explained where speciation comes from. It was sexual selection and genetic mutation. That's been debunked. Nobody agrees with that anymore. No evolutionary scientist agrees with that. So, similarly to how I can't demonstrate that consciousness exists because I can't pinpoint to exactly how a collection of... No, because we're not arguing existentiality. Species exist. There's no disputing that. Consciousness exists. There's no disputing that. You're saying you can explain how species came to be and differentiate it from one another. I'm saying, no, you can't. You don't. You fail to utterly. You provide no mechanism. You're saying, well, it must be evolution because of these things that suggest evolution. But if you don't know what evolution is, in other words, you can't explain where the change comes from or how it occurs, then there's no reason to conclude that you have explained anything, obviously. Sorry, that's just how it goes. You're saying, but we should still believe in evolution. It's not a word that means anything then. It doesn't say anything. It doesn't explain anything. There's nothing to believe or not believe at that point. I mean, that's the thing. Remember that evolution used to explain where species came from, and that's its central claim. That the evolution that explains where species came from explained it through sexual selection and genetic mutation. That's been debunked. Additionally, the fossil record debunks any of the traditional understandings of evolution. It's required this notion of punctuated equilibrium, which also recently has been debunked. The notion of punctuated equilibrium tried to explain why all the species came about in a fairly short period of time, a couple million years, in what's known as the Cambrian explosion. The only way to possibly explain that and retain evolution was to create this notion called punctuated equilibrium, in which the mechanisms unstated of evolution, but presumably mutation-based, proceed forward at a highly accelerated rate for a short period of time and then shut off forevermore for no reason. So all scientists agree that most species that we look at now, if not all species we look at now, are in what they agree is called a state of genomic stasis. They say no longer evolving. But they debunked punctuated equilibrium as well. The fact that there's adaptation within a species that creates breeds within a species is proof that evolution is bullshit, because if you stop breeding them, they return to the genetic mean. All the forces of genetic directionality in nature return it to the genomic mean. Everything, it's very clear, extraordinarily clear, Mohawk Pigeon, that I understand this topic extremely well compared to you. That you have no concept about why you quote-unquote believe what you believe. That I understand the science of this vastly better than you do. There's only one reason why evolution is still clung to by smart people. And it's because it was positioned originally as the alternative to a young Earth theory of creationism. Now, if compared against a young Earth theory of creationism, then I guess it seems like a much better alternative, right? Of course, there are tons of other explanations that are neither young Earth creationist nor evolution, which is not an explanation, as I've said, that one might argue. So it's not a choice between well, Horse Mumbler, in this instance, it does. What I'm saying is, because you have to remember the actual reality here. I'm talking to people who are arguing that evolution is correct because they chose to believe that in high school, based on the fact that it's more scientific, right? What I'm trying to tell them is, okay, first of all, you're not up to date with evolution's science. So what you were taught in high school is not what evolutionary scientists think now. So the question then becomes, Horse Mumbler, do I want to argue against your misunderstanding of science, of evolution from high school, Or do I want to argue against the actual current presentation of science of evolution by evolutionary scientists? I'd rather argue against the latter, which means I have to do a certain amount of that to frame it accordingly. Now, I agree that no evolutionary scientists believe in Mia is not a debunking of Mia. But the thing is, it's one of those things where you don't want to go into that node. This is a place where ENTPs understand things a little bit better than INTPs, Horse Mumbler. You don't want to go down into that node and have to explain all that stuff. I can, but let your opponent require an explanation. The fact is, he's trying to take the position of being on the side of the scientists. So it's important for me to say, no, this is not the side you're arguing, okay? If you're arguing that side, then you're arguing a third position. Hi, Horse Mumbler. I used a picture of you and me as a thumb yesterday for a live stream. What's the difference between SE and TE? SE is doing stuff. It's an action. It's a execution of a decision. TE is figuring out how. I don't think so, Octavio Silva. I don't think so. It's feeling like possibly too much of an expense for me. It's like I haven't been working much, so I haven't heard any talk about it for a while. I think it's next. Also, this COVID thing hasn't really. I'm not talking about you. I wasn't talking to you, Horse Mumbler. I was talking to this other person who I believe truly, I correctly assume that he's talking about evolution that he learned in high school. So that's the point. Is I was arguing with somebody specific, and I have to deal with the person as well as the arguments, and come to terms with the fact that he thinks he's arguing on the side of evolutionary scientists, but he's not up to date about what they think. I'm glad you asked that question, Octavia Silva. I didn't even talk about that. No, we're doing away with the bear traps. Too many people lost a foot last time. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is go smoke a cigarette outside, like I said I was going to, and I'm going to also put on some music for an intermission. While I'm gone, and I'm gonna meow like meow. $30,000 days, too many expectations, not even worth a damn. 30,000 nights to sleep off the intoxication, otherwise you won't escape the plan. I wasted half my days trying on another's way, but who can tell me my priorities? Is there anybody knows the key? 'Cause I'm tired of doing it wrong. Want direction and have all along. Wait until I know. Or is that just hesitation? Clarity's no good once your chance is gone. What I need to show is it so below my station. I'm tired of doing it wrong. wasted half my days trying on others' ways. Who can tell me my priorities? Is there anybody knows the key? 'Cause I think I'm doing this wrong. 'Cause I think I'm doing this wrong. Doing this wrong. If Jesus was people but absent of sin, he must then have struggled with regular men and women, of course, when they too were present. Disciples all warily eyeing the lesson. People aren't Jesus once they're betrayed. The easy believing forever is lost. Maybe naive is not to be saved, but the wise pay a terrible cost. If people were Jesus, they'd know what they think, and everyone's work would be true. And feelings once spoken would sit where they sink, and we'd all know just what to do. People aren't Jesus once they're betrayed. The easy believing forever is lost. Maybe naive is not to be saved, but the wise pay a terrible cost. The one you thought you knew, acts like you never have met. The life you made for two has faded into regret. No one unshaken, we all have been shook, but being forsaken don't mean you're forsook. Though in the past you've been hung out to dry, we'll find them at last, we just have to try. People aren't Jesus once they're betrayed. The easy believing forever is lost. Maybe naive is not to be saved, but the wise pay a terrible cost. Maybe naivete is not to be saved, but the wise pay a terrible cost. Out of rock, rock and roll, bring around those heavy chords. Show me how to be so hard. Circa 1984, out of rock. You are so hot, I don't know what I thought. Listening to that jazz and country shot. When I should know you go down. Gotta rock. After all your talk to the very rockin' it. Gotta rock, I roll. Roll your pancakes on my junk. Oh, rock your uncle up too much wine. Oh, rock those pancakes for your lunch. And oh, roll up in front of you in line. I'm the guy to rock. Like a rockin' block, a rockin' block. Separate the Lord to rock a lock. I know so few who do to rock. God knows that you do not rock. So spot this rockin' every dock. After all your talk to the very rockin' it. Gotta rock, I roll all night. I rock all day. Repeat yourself like every day. Have your brunch, don't interrupt my rock and roll. Blow your mind. I rock your mimosas like Dave's mine. I roll your pancakes on my jaw. of rock, a rockin' shock, a rockin' flock of rockin' blocks. I pray the Lord to rock a lot. I am the God of rock.
Just rock and every talk to. After all the talking, the rockin' is gotta rock, gotta rock, gotta rock, gotta rock, gotta rock, gotta rock.
Got a story about 10 years old. It's a song for an open road, and such a thing must always do its job. She married up Jed, turned 19, 4 years in and 3 kids weaned. Weary now and questioning the past. Agency out, pays his discretion, locking in our courses, way too young. The urgency conferred is really just depression, making sure those underneath them always run. Doug at 20 found bourbon fun, likewise Doug at 21, and so forth well up into middle age. What he once thought would set him free became his whole identity. Now Doug's about another drunken rage. Agency out, pays his discretion, locking in our courses, way too young. The urgency conferred is really just depression, making sure those underneath them always run. Everybody's panicked about the kids, lock them up with extra Dexedrine and mathematics to promote success, or to impose more unjust duress. Agency out, pays his discretion, locking in our courses, way too young. The urgency conferred is really just depression, making sure those underneath them always run. Without consent, it's really just oppression by parasites surviving while they feed their fear of dying. Yes, they feed upon the futures of the young.
Can we have sex?
God damn it, we were promised a plague. Bodies in the street. Totally had to flatten the curve. Not overburden healthcare, sir. But you see, it's been underburdened, gee, cause this COVID thing's been so exaggerated. We have been lied to, fooled, misguided, directed to the wrong side. Your cherry-picking art is not gonna work. You don't know your stats, your data gathering methodologies are crap. Listen here, if you only test the sickest, fuck you think is gonna be the trick, stupid and scared. COVID-19 destroy everything for the impression you bring. Stupid and scared. COVID-19 destroy everything for the impression you bring. Stupid and scared, scared and dumb. We swallow the gum. Scared. COVID-19 destroy everything for the impression you bring. Stupid and scared. COVID-19 destroy everything for the impression you bring.
much noise in the data stream, loud enough to disrupt everybody's dreams. Frustrations mean mistakes are made, until it seems everybody's throwing shade. I won't be just another casualty of other people's well-intentioned rules. I used to think that from tomorrow there'd be time for yesterday. It's not the sort of thing that one can borrow. No one willing still to lend a day. Your uncertainty's implicit, just like an unexpected visit from a bunch of men all dressed in blue suits. I won't be just another casualty of other people's well-intentioned rules. I used to think that some tomorrow there'd be time for yesterday. Well, there's a herd of cattle and a flock of birds. School of fishes, it's a spew of words. Campaign of battles, a collection of churns. Cause farmers milk chattel for a cup's worth of curds, and a lip flap of tattlers telling on burn for disrupting the arrangement of a blossom of ferns. Confers a shameful burden that burn deserves, or so. What's the matter with Chad?
Is he terribly bad?
Is he very like thin?
Who's a terrible man?
Is he sort of like Jill?
Who can't pay her bill?
Or rather like Jack?
Too stuck on the facts?
And what about Sue?
Will she know what to do if they bring attitude? Does she show ingenuity?
He talks about you
whenever we go walking.
What's the matter with Bryn?
She's been living in sin.
She's been hanging with Jim.
He's looking terribly thin.
What's the deal with Frank?
Stealing fish from my tank.
He's colluding with you.
And they're talking to Lou.
What's wrong with the ladies?
What's the matter with men? From the feelings of Katie to the coldness of Sven.
He talks about you
whenever we go walking. Paths that lead to lesser days.
Paths that lead to lesser days.
Still spill from the overwater.
Still out the overwater
And
path.
whoever's left, that's still okay. Just have the sails to the mast.
Are you angry at Ken?
Or Neville again.
Don't bother with Kev.
He's practically dead.
Just focus on Bert.
He's medium hurt.
What's a quandary for
Did
Liz?
she fail a quiz?
And what about Drew?
Will she know what to do if they bring attitude? Will she show ingenuity? She talks about you whenever we go walking. Paths that lead to lesser days.
Paths that lead to lesser days.
Still spill from the overwater.
Still out the overwater
And
path.
whoever's left, that's still okay. Just have the sails to the mast. Each of us have much and gravely sinned. Throw up the hands, stiffen the chin. Catastrophe looms heavy overhead again.
Time's gone, will never be again. You're living on a time frame I will never know. Alienation and humanity's soul. Imagine you a future after the collapse, returning to the urgency of isolated past.
Picturing community, free of metaphysics, hunting buffalo, picking red delicious, knowledge of the seasons, wisdoms of old, fires blazing in the night to keep away the cold. Hostility is kept at bay. Hostility is kept at bay. What you think is in the way. What you think is in the way of life as children of the land. With an agave weatherman. Imagining a history never could have been. You lecture at the college, advancement is a sin. Lamenting disconnection and every corporate act. Asserting all your feelings, ignoring all the facts. Hostility is kept at bay. Hostility is kept at bay. What you think is in the way. What you think is in the way of life as children of the land. With an agave weatherman. You find modernity just so banal. Wish you had been born any time but now. And your experience won't run afoul. Visualize nobility sipping on some port, or tribes of peaceful savages in beautiful comport. But few of history's people ever thusly did cavort, 'cause life was nasty, solitary, brutish, poor, and short. Hostility is kept at bay. Hostility is kept at bay. What you think is in the way. What you think is in the way of life as children of the land. With an agave weatherman. With an agave weatherman. No good comes from skating on with them whom you'd mistaken for the one.
Habituated defense and indecency, self-inflict eventually once the search is done. Driving in the car last night, we had a nasty fight. Each insisting we were right and the other one to blame. So when you pulled that stunt, I screamed something awfully blunt. My words were as long as they were dumb, and I burned my share of shame.
It's each of our own failings,
Not us doing the nailing to the wall. We fear so the others sailing off to reset their life and all. You can trust me, I can trust you, so now to trust ourselves must true. The love lies deep between you and me. At least about that we can both agree. Driving in the car last night, we had a nasty fight. Each insisting we were right and the other one to blame. So when you pulled that stunt, I screamed something awfully blunt. My words were as long as they were dumb, and I burned my share of shame.
my share of shame. People everywhere gather up, enemies outraged at how they missed a sign. How do they set their priorities? These foreign backstabbing entities, ensuing heartache and misery, follow necessarily from their savage ways. Insulting cars in a desert, we're stuck with such petty larceny. We all partition the victims and call it destruction of the whole damn world. To when she had the chance to buy. Julie soon forgot about soon and not, although she outrecalled. People everywhere gather up, enemies outraged and how they miss a sign. How do they set their priorities? These foreign backstabbing entities, ensuing heartache and misery follow necessarily from their savage ways. Insulting, causing, and Desiree, we're stuck in such petty larceny. We all partition the victories and call it destruction of the whole damn world. All right, wow, that was a lot of fun. We enjoyed some fine musics there by one host Eric, host Talking with Famous People, known for his remarkable tendencies towards wonder and glory. Okay, so it's 9:40 and I have to work at 10, so I'm gonna wrap this up. I'm gonna end the stream and I don't know, smoke some bowls. I mean, it's like there's not really anything I need to do before 10. I'm gonna just pull a couple bowls right now as I'm saying goodbye to everybody. A man of singular virtue. What's interesting is that expression, a man of singular virtue, it does not mean that the man has but a single virtue. It means that their overarching virtue is of a singular quality. I would also say that one more. You just gotta be you, don't you? You gotta be you. No matter what in this life, you just gotta be you. Yeah, singular. Kyra, he's joking. Just he's not serious. He is still trolling. I wouldn't call that trolling though. I call that joking. That's a funny joke. That's not trolling. Look, there's no disputing. He's not mocking you. He's making a joke. We are a community of many different kinds of plants. And some of us are desert dwellers, cactus plants, who need an environment that's not too wet. But every plant benefits from some water, so it's important that we have some moisture around here. Now, granted, we've got tropical rainforest plants like Kyra, who like a lot of moisture, and who tend to interpret what might be a breeze as an indication of more moisture when it's really just a breeze. You know, that's fine. That's to be expected. We want to include tropical rainforest plants here, and it should occasionally, you know, pour FI so that they too can enjoy the rich, loamy earth sodden with dampness. Okay. So today I'm going to bid you adieu with the following instructions. Try, if you will, please, for me. Try today to dangle some parts of you into a pool of dampness within. Okay? Find the pool of dampness within and dangle your tenders thereinto. Okay, it's tender dangling Sunday, and if your tenders aren't moistened by the dangle, then you've been too rational about the whole thing. Okay? If you have questions, Octavio Silva and Curious Kyra are two FI doms who are standing by to answer your questions about how best to dangle your most intimate tenders. I mean, metaphysically intimate. You know, we're not talking about physical parts, okay? Don't be gross. Get your mind out of the gutter, lawnmower. What I'm saying is this. You need to dangle your most intimate tenders into a pool of real moisture that's damp from the dewdrops of tenderness. And probably the experts here are going to be Octavia Silva and Curious Kyra. So,
if you want to know more about how to do that, you can ask them. Like I said, we've got a hotline, 1-800-DANGLE-TENDER, and you call it, and they'll answer the phone, and they'll be able to provide you information about FI. Can you be certified as an FI Dom, or you need to stamp approval? Well, all licenses all the time is able to license you as an FI Dom, but I'm not sure if they will. That you have to go to their website and figure out whether they're. I need to make the website still, though, is the problem. The problem is that the CEO of all licenses all the time, Sir Ronald Ronchon, is a little bit irresponsible. Shiver me tenders. Kimberly Tenders is the name of a character in Strangers with Candy that I think is just a great name. Kimberly Timbers. It's going to hit 100 degrees in Washington today, Hambone says. Well, then I'm going to remind you of a cooler time, Hambone. That's right, I am. I'm going to remind Hambone of a cooler time, a more gentle time. A time when hams were bones and bones were hams. This one? No. This one? There we go. There we go. Hambone, you're not only here in text, you're here in image as well. You're fishing. I keep blocking your view. Hey. Hey, Hambone. Mwah! You like that? You like that, little guy? This is hard. It's backwards. You like that? Oh, that's funny. LA Kings or Ducks? I don't care. Hockey schmocky, Hockey schmocky. Oh yeah, he's cute. Ladies, he's single. He's also an amazing fisherman. If you want to see a real professional angler, watch Hambone cast out his line. You are going to just be blown away. Realize, I want to be with this man because he can make sure I never starve. He could give me a fish, that would be one thing, but he already knows how to fish. Nobody needs to teach him, thus he can feed us for a lifetime. Have you been working on your fishing since my visit, Hambone? Been developing some better fishing skills? Because I was kind of exaggerating when I was saying that stuff back there. He's actually not a very good fisherman. Catch fish or break everything. No in between. That's good. I like your... you're not a person who wastes his time compromising, right? To compromise, what does that really mean? It means to give up, to be a surrender monkey. Alright, I'm going to split because I do have work. I should sort of look at the debate case before we start a little bit. So let's see if I can find them. Yeah. Oh, I guess I just end stream here. I accidentally closed the window that was like the streaming window, so...